The most heavily discussed topic across the Smash Bros community, or any PvP title for that matter, is how good a character is, especially in relation to another. Spend more than 5 minutes in the Smash community and you'll hear opinions being voiced on a character being better or worse than they actually are. A while back I made a video on who I considered to be the most underrated characters in the game. Though I've been meaning to make this topic a lot earlier than now, I wasn't entirely certain on what characters to talk about. But after thinking it over, and now that sufficient time has passed, for today we'll be discussing some overrated characters in Smash Ultimate, in my opinion at least. In light of this being expectedly subjective, I want to start by clarifying that overrated doesn't always have to mean bad. When people say something's underrated, there's an implication that a character is actually good despite public opinion thinking of them as bad, and vice versa. It's possible for an overrated character to still be good and an underrated character to still be bad, but simply not as much as people say they are. With that said and done, let's go through one at a time and detail my thought process for each pick, beginning with Shulk. When Shulk first came out, all eyes were drawn to his iconic Monado arts, arguably the most elaborate attack in the game before Steve came out. Monado arts enable Shulk to temporarily redistribute his power budget from one attribute to another, resulting in considerable boosts to the receiving attribute at the expense of the donating one, with ideally a net positive. Jump Art gives Shulk without question the best air physics in the game in exchange for taking increased damage from all sources. Speed Art gives him incredible ground speed and short hops at the cost of airtime and damage dealt. Shield Art magnifies all his defensive attributes, most notable of which being the lower hit stun he sustains in this form, allowing him to break out of true combos in a way no other can, while also being effectively immune to shield break setups. However, all of those benefits are kept in check by him losing everything else, movement and offensive pressure. Buster Art causes all Shulk's attacks to deal significantly more damage, but at the cost of taking more damage himself and losing a lot of knockback on his attacks. Although the decreased skill power of his moves enable several attacks to convert into each other, so this is seen as a net positive. Finally, Smash Art giving him huge amounts of knockback to the point where every move in his kit gains the ability to kill at unreasonably low percents, but at the same time Shulk's damage output is effectively neutralized while he himself also becomes more prone to exploding. Monado Arts has been widely regarded as the best neutral B in the game for its ability to fundamentally alter a character's capabilities, and would theoretically make even some low tiers become high tiers or potentially top tiers if they had it. I can only imagine Ganondorf with Monado Arts. Trying to imagine a top tier like Game & Watch or Sonic with Monado Arts would be terrifying beyond belief. Having access to such an ability drove a lot of optimism for Shulk's potential, with many claiming him to be top tier if given the proper time and mastery. 6 years have come and gone, and no such result was ever obtained. Why is that? The answer lies in his base kit, likely having been balanced around the extent in which Monado Arts can amplify it. Certain attacks would be a welcome addition to have on other fighters depending on the context of their movement and playstyle, but objectively Shulk's attacks are mediocre in quality, causing mastery over Monado Arts to be a necessity, not a luxury. None of Shulk's grounded attacks are particularly fast or safe despite their long range. In fact, he's the only character in the entirety of Smash Ultimate who possesses not a single normal with a single digit startup outside of jab. But in spite of their laggy startup and low safety, all of his moves have fairly modest damage and kill power at base, forcing Shulk to rely heavily on Buster and Smash Art respectively to increase their threat capacity. Furthermore, Shulk's mobility at base is also quite average, not excelling in any particular field. Said balanced physics are likely once again done out of consideration for Shulk's ability to manipulate them with speed and jump art. Only when using Monado Arts does he become an actual character. The problem with that is that while each art does indeed stretch his attributes in such a way that it becomes a net positive for him, in practice he doesn't have that many ways to compensate for what he's more exposed in because of the aforementioned base kit. For example, Shulk's speed art makes him incredibly fast to the point where he can rush you down even faster than Roy, but speed art only augments his movement, not frame data the way Steve does at Gold Tools. Having aerial startups of no less than 13 frames across the board makes Shulk especially vulnerable to getting counterattacked in air-to-air, in spite of his tremendous speed advantage. The final issue preventing him from maximizing his potential is the ephemeral nature of Monado Arts. They don't last that long and have a non-negligible cooldown. I understand it would be stupidly overpowered if Shulk was allowed to stay on a certain art indefinitely, but the very fact that he relies on his neutral B as a crutch, yet has to go through measurable lengths of time without it, is seen as a detriment as opposed to someone who is always fast, someone who can always deal big damage, or someone who can always one-shot you. In the eyes of most people, it's too much work and investment without a reciprocative gain, which is why I personally consider Shulk to be more of a mid-tier character, with the possibility to become high-tier at random moments, kind of like Hero. On the subject of Shulk having a poor base to offset his massive peaks, that's often been a point of comparison between him and Cloud. Cloud of course doesn't swing nearly as far as his fellow blonde-haired blue-eyed brethren, but it's made up for by having a much more stable baseline. Good physics, better frame data, more options, more utility and whatnot. For all intents and purposes, Cloud would make better use of Monado Arts than even Shulk himself, although it's fair to say many cast members would. If that's the case, why am I putting him on this video? Evidently, I've developed a reputation for being a massive Cloud down player, and you know what? I'm proud of my opinion. Because it's correct. Fair's fair, Cloud's more than deserving of a high tier position at worst. It wouldn't take a genius to see that with a moveset like Cloud's, there's no way he would be a mid-tier character. While not the fastest, though he prefers to play the mid-range, Cloud has good frame data across the board to handle close quarters combat, including but not limited to his great out of shield game through up B and up smash, the former being a contender for top 5 best out of shield options, especially when factoring limit up B, and the latter being a huge punish option for anyone careless enough to attack his shield with the laggy option. Cloud is also notorious for having among the best combination of 5 aerials in the game, only beaten out by a choice few, one of which in particular is in contention for the best of its kind, back air. Moreover, he's got a lot of other great tools in his kit that can dictate the flow of neutral, give him a very strong disadvantage, and allow him ever so slightly more ways to escape disadvantage than most of the sorties. Exaggerated as it may be, it's understandable why someone would look at Cloud as top tier, which by my definition is anyone ranked 15 or higher on the tier list. Now comes the part where I further my agenda. Why do I think Cloud is overrated? Not because of his attributes, rather because he lacks a checkmate or bullshit factor. No matter what you want to say about Ultimate's top tiers, a hallmark trait shared amongst all of them is that they cheat, and or can engineer a situation that literally wins the game for them on autopilot. Steve, Sonic, Game & Watch, Snake, Aegis, Rob, Peach and Daisy, Diddy Kong, Joker, Kazuya, Min Min, Samus, Yoshi, all of them have something that just straight up gives them an unfair advantage over their opponent in a way no one else can remotely match. For instance, Peach and Daisy have float, Diddy Kong and Rob can both create repeatedly throwable items that are stupid in their own ways, Mithra has foresight, Joker has gun, Yoshi has double jump armor, Samus has a near inescapable ledge trap, Snake is a frame 1 combo breaker, and a remote detonating smash attack. Cloud by comparison doesn't have anything like that. He has strong attacks and moves, but nothing that you don't see on other people. Before you say finishing touch, there are many insta-kill moves in this game. Because of this, he's a very linear and predictable character to fight. Difficult for sure, but he doesn't have that bullshit factor. Not a single decent player is ever at all surprised by what Cloud can do. Success depends entirely on the Cloud player's ability to outplay their opponent. Granted, it's easier for him to do so in light of having an above average profile in just about everything, but the onus is still on him to better play his opponent. The fact that no other Cloud main was able to remotely achieve half the results that Sparko has is indicative that it might be another case of the player, not the character. Cloud's a good character, but calling him top 15 in my opinion is a bit gratuitous. Much of that is a result of him beating the characters who beat everyone else. He's perennially acknowledged for having a comfortable if not favorable matchup against the likes of Steve and Game & Watch, while also faring not too badly against the more annoying characters for most to deal with like Samus, Yoshi, and Olimar. But aside from that, with how long Ultimate's been around for, having a low skill ceiling comes with the repercussion of needing to mature your game sense and fundamentals, at which point is that a property exclusive to just Cloud. I would argue he's more of a rank 18 to 23 character, around where Roy and Wolf are currently located. I still think it's a crime that people put Palutena below Cloud. Now some of you may have caught on that I conveniently omitted a character from the top 15 while listing one BS move or aspect of each character, and that's because the next overrated character is gonna be Fox. Listen, I get it, choose to lose character. Fox is one of those units where you can indeed mash your way through just about anything. Some of the fastest frame data in the game with fantastic ground speed and verticality, with this only real shortcoming being aerial horizontal movement. In general, there's no shortage of moments where it feels like you just can't do anything while Fox DPS is the living daylights out of you. The textbook example of a glass cannon, someone who can dish it out but can't really take it. Mastery over these types of characters comes down to how closely you can fly to the sun without actually getting burned, and Light's a good example of that optimization. The way it feels like he's dancing on a razor's edge but still coming out on top against incredibly strong players always makes me wonder if the guy secretly has a Sandevistan equipped or something with that kind of reaction speed. That being said, Fox is another one of those characters with great attributes, but nothing in particular that gives him an insurmountable statistical advantage over his opponent. I think Fox might be the most fair top tier to fight against. He requires lightning quick execution, but doesn't have anything particularly too oppressive. A lot of people often complain about how brainless nair into up smash feels for how often he can spam it, or how getting slinged by a million back airs at the ledge is super broken, but if you think about it, many characters have that one broken kill confirm they can do against the majority of the cast, or that one move or option they can spam a bunch of times at the ledge. To repeat, I understand the feeling of helplessness of getting comboed into oblivion by a good Fox player, but frankly, I can't fathom for the life of me why people think he's top 10, especially when other rushdown fighters saw a decline from the game's growing anti-aggression meta. Similarly to Cloud, Fox is pretty straightforward in what he does, and at a certain point the matchup devolves into how fast the Fox player can play while his opponent tries to do everything in their power to slow him down. I'm not saying a character's placement on the tier list is solely determined by if they have a BS factor or not. Under that thought process, Luigi, Shulk, Bayonetta, Pac-Man, etc. would be much higher up with their respective stupidity, but there's a distinction highlighting the top characters from everyone else below them. Good attributes and moves along with the BS factor, while Fox has only good attributes. I thought it was unbelievable for him to be the 5th best character in the game in the first tier list of Ultimate, but even rank 8 sounds a bit excessive to me. At best, that would put him no higher than rank 13 to 15. His strengths are nowhere near overwhelming enough to offset the critical flaws he's always had. It's not even a jab at the atrocious DI of Foxmates. There's no way you can be a top 10 character when you can blow up that easily, or be put into situations where you can be blown up easily. At least for Game & Watch, despite being even lighter than Fox, the challenge is actually getting him into that position, but Fox's defensive utility is not even a tenth of what Game & Watch has. Once again, I feel like people overrate him just because it's one dude. Kaninabe made a big splash for a time, but realistically it's just light, compared to the however many Aegis or Rob or Steve or Diddy Kong players there are. Final character I want to talk about is Pikachu. I know what you're gonna say, you literally just said there's no way Cloud is higher than Palutena and Pikachu, but hear me out. Maybe it's all the Sam propaganda for the past however many years, but anyone remember when people thought Pikachu was top 2 or number 1, and yet the rat never got any results for like years up until around just recently with Shiny Mark? Perhaps before the advent of Fighters Pass 2 it might make more sense why people thought Pika was number 1. He has a great matchup spread against the previous top tiers of the olden days like Palutena, Wolf, etc. due to being too small to hit and having some, or should I say multiple war crimes in his kit. Thunder Jolt is still the most free neutral pressure tool in the game. Quick Attack is the second best up B in the game, only behind Game & Watch. He's virtually ungimpable and potentially unedge guardable, and he can mash. Oh my god, he can mash. So many moves with incredibly low startup and end lag, so many multi-hitting aerials that for some reason are really consistent as opposed to the however many millions of multi-hitters that don't work. Being the smallest character in the game is always a plus too. So why is Pikachu overrated? We live in an age where everyone has ways to explode you if you so much as inhale the same air they do. So the characters who perform well are those who can either do the exploding like Steve, Peach, and Kazuya, or find ways to put pressure on their opponent without being at risk of exploding like Min, Game & Watch, and Sonic. Pikachu is neither. While his back air trains on Town and City will always be a force to be reckoned with, the vast majority of his attacks are by and large not that threatening on their own. None of his aerials kill on their own, making them struggle quite poorly in contests of stray hits. While stuff like drag down nair and teleport down smash is a true kill confirm, or you might be able to confirm into a dash attack, Pikachu's overall kill power really isn't that scary. The only times he can really throw you off is if he lands an early thunder. Everything else kills at the percent you expect a move like that to, or alternatively he edge guards you. Conversely, Pikachu's always struggled with range. T-Jolt's a great neutral tool and a way to create openings, but unlike a charge shot, it's not a killing option, merely a setup tool. In my Why No One Plays episode on him, I talked about how Pikachu's a very two-part character. He needs to set up the kill before he can actually get the kill. Right now, most dominating characters in the meta skip the step 2 and do the setup and killing all in step 1, making Pikachu feel like it's a lot more work. To be fair, currently he sits at the top of high tier, which is an agreeable position, so at present I think he's rated where he should be, but I wanted to give mention of him due to his legacy of being quite possibly the most overrated character in the game. In defense of the previous 3, they're only a few spots higher than where I think they should be, whereas for Pikachu I'm like, how in the world did people think he was number 1 when outside of maybe ESAM at Glitch, he had no results to show for it until Shiny Mark 1 Smash Factor. Anyways, that about wraps up my video on the most overrated characters in Smash Ultimate, once again in my humble opinion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, especially if you think other characters are more overrated than them. But for now, if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, and check out my other Smash Ultimate discussions if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Don't worry about that. Oh, Spargo, aggressive option to get back air. This is big. Ooh. This is big.
Okay, he's putting on some good damage here. Like one up smash away. And he
there it is! TK, you called for it. He delivered it. Light is your super SmashCon Fall Fest 2021 champion.
Doesn't man, look at him, bro. Got all of his boys.